Welcome back, everyone, to Open Line. Talking about affordability in Nashville. I have a great panel up here. Avi Poster, Marsha Edwards, Dr. Ken Chilton. They're all going to be at an event on Saturday. And again, we're talking about work wages and the future here in Nashville. As we went to break, the legislature came up. And the unlikeliness that the legislature would agree to any sort of change in the minimum wage here in Tennessee. What did you say after that, Avi? What did you want to say?
The point I wanted to raise is that we have to do a better job at sharing our story with our state legislature, why we need them to help us adopt the policies that will drive our city forward. A case in point, a few years ago, a Voice for Reduction of Poverty worked with our city council, and we had our city council adopted inclusionary zoning practices, only to see the state overturn them against the will of our city. And my point is, I don't think we did a good enough job convincing the state why that was so important. As Reverend Barnes would have said, that would have led to a decrease in the density of poverty in which so many of our kids are growing. So I would like to see our major cities collectively get together, hold hands, walk together up to the state legislature with our city councils, and tell the story that we need them to hear.
I think state lawmakers would say we're a pro-business state. It's one reason that we have so many companies moving into our state, and there's supply and demand. And at some point, wages will go up if there's not enough, not enough workforce, and it'll take care of itself. I think that would be their argument. What do you say?
Well, historically, that has been the case. When the labor market is tight, wages go up to compensate for that, to attract additional laborers. We haven't experienced that post-2010 the way we had in previous markets of low unemployment. So that really hasn't materialized, which makes people wonder why, and I don't have the answer for that. But related to that issue in terms of inequality and rising inequality, if you look at the data, you mentioned childhood poverty. About 28% of the kids under the age of 18 in Nashville live under poverty, which by historical rates is extremely high. The African American median household income as a percentage of the white median household income declined from about 67% in 2000 to about 61% today. So you're seeing cleavages in society between race and class get exaggerated in this environment, and these jobs that are being created aren't filling that void.
And I'm interested that you said we see help wanted signs everywhere. So you would think wages would be going up, but we're not seeing that. Is that kind of what you would say as well?
Yeah.
And I wonder why that is.
I had a woman tell me the other day that she works, she has 3 jobs. She works in a hospital cleaning rooms on Saturday and Sunday. She walks in and they tell her in the morning that she has somewhere between 36 and 48 rooms to clean, and they're paying her $10 an hour. So I think that, the reality is most of us are just not, we're not in the world of these jobs. And so I think that we don't always have, we don't have good context. But the reality is that we don't see, if in 2009, when the wage was minimum wage, federal minimum wage was moved to $7.25. If they'd also tied it to inflation, it'd be $10.29, something like that. I think that's right, Ken. Just that would make a tremendous difference in people's lives. I don't know who can raise 2 kids on $15,000 a year.
And they would say, again, that those jobs aren't meant to raise a family, right? Wouldn't they say
those are
entry-level jobs? They give your high school students some experience working at McDonald's, and then they move on. And the minimum wage is designed as that sort of entry-level job. Then you're supposed to move on. What are you seeing as the reality?
We're not seeing that, I don't think that a 56-year-old woman who's cleaning 36 rooms to 48 rooms a day, that's not an entry-level job. That's still $10 an hour. And I think that, quite frankly, when I was growing up on our farm, we never paid minimum wage because no one would work as hard as we needed them to for that much money. But I would tell you this, that sometimes the argument at the legislature is not about the minimum wage. It's about the wages, 2-level wages above that. So employers now who feel good about paying, $9 an hour, $10 an hour, that wage has to go up. And it will impact the next 2 wages eventually. That's where the real pressure is. It's the secondary level job, not the first level job.
I can see that. Yeah.
You know, we all have lots of friends in the community. Some of my friends in the hospitality community tell me they are paying better, and there may be individual cases of that. There is also the element of supply and demand. Downtown restaurants, downtown hotels are in dire need of labor. Unfortunately, people can't afford to live anywhere near where they work, and they can't afford the transportation back and forth. And even if they could get downtown, where are they going to park, and how are they going to get back and forth to their workplace? The affordability issue is significant. And yes, I know that when hotels are fighting for people to work in their kitchens or work on their floors, that they may have to entice in some cases. But the general scope of the city, the region, we're not seeing wages going up. They're pretty stagnant.
And the median hourly wage is about $17 an hour, which is about $34,000 a year if you doubled it. So that means 50% of the jobs pay less than $34,000 a year. And that's 300,000 or so jobs in this region. So it's a huge population of people who are struggling, working hard, playing by the rules, but not getting ahead. And that, again, is an anomaly in our historical development post-World War II.
So that's not something we've always seen. This is new, what we're talking about. I mean, when you say half our jobs are below 34,000, it would be tough to live in Nashville, have a family certainly, and have any kind of salary.
Yeah, absolutely.
Find a place to live.
Absolutely. Yeah. And for African Americans, it's much worse, and Hispanics as well.
But there are heroes in our community. I can think of a hotelier friend who years ago started paying people working in taking care of the rooms in the hotel $17 an hour and health insurance. And they did that because they thought it was just. There are individuals in our city that are doing the right thing because it's just. We're talking about the whole landscape. Businesses that outsource and have no control of what their workers are paid when they're outsourced. The entire landscape is what we're looking at, not the individual heroes. They should be held up as examples.
And that's good. It's just. But what is the other argument that makes it actually happen? I mean, that's great. It's just. But why do they? What is the other motivator? I guess. And you kind of had a little bit of an.
I think there's another aspect of it and this is, you know, some of this is too new because some of the cities that have been moving to 12 and 15 hours haven't been doing it long enough yet. But there is an issue, and this is a huge issue among employers. It's a huge issue for me as an employer, and that is my workforce stability, meaning my workforce coming every day and making sure they want to be there and staying there. I mean, the turnover that you see at the bottom is, you know, I have lots of people that are supporters of Martha O'Brien who are employers running businesses, and that's what they tell me all the time, is that their ability to keep workers is a real challenge.
Cut down on turnover.
Yeah.
Let's go to Vicki. Vicki has waited patiently. Hello, Vicki.
Yes.
Go right ahead. What's on your mind?
Yes, it seems like a lot has been covered already. But one question I had was, why has talking about solutions, rent control has not been brought up or talked about at all? I know some large cities like San Francisco have done that, and it has worked. It just gets to be ridiculous here. I have been in Nashville since 2007. In the last 5 years, my rent has doubled. People like myself, we have no recourse. I just recently retired 6 months ago, but I worked in the neighborhood where I live. I go to the library in the neighborhood where I live. I use the gym in the neighborhood where I live. I retired 6 months ago. I can't afford to live here anymore. And that's just wrong. We're the boots on the ground. We're the one in the hospitality field. We're the grocery clerks. We're the policemen. We're the teachers. And we're the boots on the ground, and we're being ignored. And we can sit around round tables and we can talk about this all day long, but nothing is being done. I am 66 years old. I have worked all my life, at least part-time, since I was 15 years old. And at this point, I'm having to worry about where am I going to live. Something is wrong with this picture. And all this money that's coming into the state of Nashville, where is it going? Nashville is becoming a top-heavy city. There's no trickle down at all. And then you're wondering why the crime is so high. People are frustrated. People are oppressed and depressed, and that's too redundant.
All right, Vicki, thank you. You've said a lot there, and I want to cover a lot of that. But who wants to go first here with Vicki's call? Avi?
You know, I'm listening in everything she says. I've heard from other people. I feel the emotion in her voice. I feel the reality in her voice. And I know that it looks like we're sitting at a round table, but I'm hoping that the round table we're convening on Saturday morning will be able to continue the conversation and get to a point where we can help drive, actually make some things happen that are different than what we're doing now.
You said, Marsha, something about fractured by class.
Right.
And she's saying that as well. We're top heavy. There's no trickle down.
Yeah.
There's a lot of money coming in, but it's only going to a few people. What do you think of that?
Well, I think as a city we made a decision that maybe we couldn't attract companies that both brought their headquarters and their manufacturing or their fulfillment house or whatever they had. So we've had a period of time where we have been very, very successful at attracting headquarter companies, and that's great. But the reality of it is the people that live here, grew up here, went to school here, these people need a job and an opportunity to move forward. And I think what we're saying is that not only is the minimum wage suppressed, but also you don't have ladders up in too many places. And so I think, you know, what Vicki's also saying is like, no, I am the strength of my community. I frequent the local businesses. I'm part of my library. I am committed to where I live, but somehow now, because of this other opportunity, this great surge in our city, that it is having this negative impact on people that are kind of the heart and soul of Nashville.
And that gets back to the quality of life that I was talking about earlier. And even though you might not have lived in a neighborhood that's, you know, $1 million homes, you had a high quality of life. You had public amenities, you had low crime, you had social networks, and because of the property trends and the development trends and the displacement that's occurring from the gentrification and such, those social networks are being destroyed and people are being pushed further and further away from their community, which gets back to, it begs the question, what can you do to stop it? And I don't have the magic answer to that. But I don't want to dismiss the power of public and moral suasion, that we do need to talk about these things as a community, and that the political culture doesn't move in that direction, perhaps through the Chamber of Commerce and through the business community that realizes it's cannibalizing itself potentially by not paying and keeping people in decent jobs that you got to with the turnover.
She mentioned also, then we're going to go to break, and then we'll take more calls, so hold on. She mentioned rent control. This has been discussed. We've had people on this show that say rent control is a terrible idea, that it has not worked in San Francisco, that it in fact raises rates, and they are obviously very opposed to it. What do you all think about rent control?
I think all of those people are in the real estate development industry.
They may have been.
But it hasn't been widely adopted outside of that, and the argument is it restricts supply because there's no incentive for me to build more apartments if I can't charge a certain amount of rent. And it's been used in New York and elsewhere. But yeah, odds of that happening in Nashville is very low, and I'm sorry to say, well, I don't think, it's not going to happen in Nashville. But moving towards, again, this whole value of discussion, people talking, people meeting, people putting political and social pressure on organizations, I think has led to a reckoning in Nashville that we do have this affordable housing problem that we're going to start perhaps spending more money on. Now, whether or not they're spending it the way that I would like to spend it or not, but at least that's pushed the discussion beyond a table of activists to real policy consideration. And that's where the value of what we're doing on Saturday is, I hope.
All right, we'll take a break. Come back, take more calls. If you want to call in, there's the number, 615-737-PLUS, 615-737-7587. Take a break, be back right after this.